Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Women of Golf. I'm your host, Ted Rico, and of course, joining me every week is one of the hardest working women in the LPGA profession, Cindy Miller. Cindy, welcome back to Women of Golf.
Well, thank you, Ted. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we're number 4 here on as I say, the hit parade of the Women of Golf, and we're slowly working through each week, and we've got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about some things here with Cindy in just a minute, but also just want to remind everybody that a little bit later in the program, we're going to be interviewing an LPGA Hall of Famer, Carol Mann. She's going to be joining us here in a little bit. But in the meantime, sit back and enjoy the program. Before we start, of course, let me remind everybody that this broadcast airs live on Blog Talk Radio every Tuesday mornings from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you want to tune into the program, you can do so at blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf. Or if you want to speak with Cindy or I anytime during the live broadcast, you can do so at area code 347-945-5855. And we'll always be more than happy to take your email questions at womenofgolf@gmail.com. We thought Cindy and I would do something a little bit different this morning, and I got thinking about this the other day, and I thought, what would be something that a lot of people out there would want to know more about? And we always hear about different things happening on the tours and so forth, but we never really sort of get in personal with some of the tour players and how they prepare for that upcoming event. So I thought we would, since we've got a great professional here today, that we would ask her some questions, and we're going to start that off with Cindy this morning before we do our interview a little bit later on. So Cindy, first off, just kind of give a general idea of some of the things that you do to prepare for an upcoming event.
Well, I happen to be an LPGA Class A teaching professional, but I'm also a former tour player. I'm married to a former tour player, and I am a member of the Legends Tour, which is the official Legends Tour senior tour of the LPGA. And our first event of the year is this coming week in Phoenix. It's the Walgreens Charity Classic, sponsored by Walgreens, and it is a one-day pro-am and a 2-day shootout at the Grandview Golf Course in Phoenix, Arizona. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, again, I kind of spin plates. I'm really good at spinning plates. Hopefully they don't all crash. A couple times they have. But I leave tomorrow morning, and I go from teaching professional, giving 34 people lessons the other day, to holy cow, now you got to tee it up. So it's a little difficult to trust what you're doing. One of the biggest things in golf, as we all know, no matter what skill level you might be, is what can you really control. And the only thing you can control is your control tower, which I would call your head. And your head will control the rest of the body. So I have been trying to practice mentally in between lessons myself. I'm very aware of what my weaknesses are. I'm one of the few, well, I shouldn't say I'm one of the few. We all struggle with this game, I believe. I don't care what your skill level is, but I have been trying to prepare myself mentally. My bad shot is a snipe hook. And if I could get rid of my snipe hook, I would learn to trust myself a little better, and I think I would have a little more fun playing. So I've been trying to mentally prepare myself to make great swings and not have I call it a testosterone attack or a surge while I'm playing, because everybody can hit balls on the range, but can you do it on the 18th hole when you're leading by a shot or one shot back and there's a gun pointed at your head and you're the one that's got their finger on the trigger. That would be the main, question.
And you raised a valid point. You talk about that you also are a teaching professional as well as a tour player. How do you juggle the two? How do you sort of divvy up your time? Because obviously you want to be at the top of your game when you're out there on some of the tour events, especially this one coming up here in Phoenix. But you also want to be at your best to help your students as well. So how do you find balance in your time?
Well, it is pretty difficult. You have to make time in the appointment book and say, this is when I'm going to practice and this is when I'm going to teach. So you have to make priorities and delegate time. The other thing you need to do is be very aware of what your process is. Again, the more you know your own self and your game, the better you will be prepared to perform. And again, none of us can control what we shoot, or we would all win every tournament we ever play in. So you have to have realistic expectations. And when you don't have the chance to play, and you live in Buffalo, New York, and you're playing against people that are Hall of Famers that have played their whole lives and have made millions of dollars on the LPGA Tour, and they live in Phoenix and they don't teach golf, it's like, let's get real, Cindy. Who do you really think you are? Now, that said, I'm not making excuses for playing that because I would never do that. But you also, I think sometimes we get our expectations a little bit too high and reality sets in and then you get disappointed.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, obviously, a lot of the ladies on the LPGA Tour that strictly play, I mean, they're devoting the better part of their week in preparation and playing in tournaments week to week. So they obviously have somewhat of an advantage. But let me ask you, Cindy, just to give the audience a little bit of an idea. How far out do you start preparing? For a tournament, say this one coming up in the week, how far out do you start practicing, or are you sort of? I mean, obviously you're continually practicing, but how far out do you really sort of get your mind wrapped around? Okay, I've got to get ready for this tournament coming up in a few weeks. Is it a few weeks out? Is it a month out, or where do you start?
Well, for me, I believe it's an ongoing process all the time. So,
right.
I mean, most golfers that play a lot will always pretend they have to make a 3-footer to win the U.S. Open. So mentally, you can always be preparing. Again, once you know what you need to do to plan and produce a golf shot, you can always practice that, whether it's in your mind or it's on the course. I think one of the things you might lose is the feel, but again, we do boot camps in January, February, March, and April, and I'm going down to Florida, and I'm playing with the people when we do their 18-hole playing experience, and so I'm always pretending that I'm in a tournament.
Right.
It's like a start and a stop. You're shifting stakes. When you're practicing on the range, you should be choosing a target, walking behind it, doing your whole process every time. Now, does everybody do that? Absolutely not. Most people grab the club, they don't even aim, and they whack away, and then they wonder why they can't hit the ball. So part of why I choose to pursue this is because I personally want to learn to totally own my own game. And I believe that the fact that I play, I use myself as a living laboratory, and I share very transparently my gagging, opportunities that I blow at myself, and I try too hard. And my left brain, which I call Cynthia, shows up, and she's like, "Okay, look out! Don't hit the bunker." Again, everybody has the same issues. It's, are you able to control your thoughts and your emotions to be able to perform when you need to? And that's what makes this game so intriguing. So I come back from a tournament, and I say, well, let me tell you what, I finally stopped trying so hard, and then I went, a couple years ago at this event, I think I shot 41-34 or something, or 33, something unbelievable, because after I stopped trying so hard, I finally started to swing, and then the ball went by the hole, and you make some birdies, and it's like, oh, wow, who is this person? There's two different people that played today.
And that's so very true. We are certainly our own worst enemy. I think we get in the way of ourselves a lot of times, and whether you're playing in a tour event or whether you're just playing in your corporate event, a lot of times when we get out there, the nerves sort of kick in, and a lot of times we don't stay focused on the task at hand. Let me also ask, if I may, a lot of players, especially your better players out there, have sort of a go-to shot, if you will. They'll have something in the back of their mind that they have that sort of tried and true shot, whether it be a fade or some case it may be a draw. Do you have something in your art out there and playing that that I can count on this shot every time to keep me in play and keep me focused? Do you have something like that as well?
I would call it my fairway finder.
Okay.
And that would be when, you've got clenched butt cheeks and you're petrified and you don't know what you're doing and you've got doubt and frustration and fear and apprehension, that I would, I tend to grip down and take like a half swing and bunt. I let go of all ego issues of what club are you using, and I take a couple extra clubs and I grip down and hit a half swing bunt. Because really it doesn't matter how good you swing. It matters how well you get the ball to go around the course and as few shots as possible. So that's what I would tend to do. The other thing is, do people really understand what they're doing when they play? Do you know how to aim? Are you comfortable standing over the ball? A lot of what we do is we do problem solving.
Right.
When we teach, why did the ball just go there? Did you choose the right club? Did you aim correctly? Was it the right shot for the right situation? And a lot of times I don't think people are very aware of how to plan a shot to get them around the course in the least amount of strokes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Preparation is everything. Let me also ask you, Cindy, if I can, obviously we have situations where you've done all the preparation that you can, you're hitting it really well that week, and you show up and suddenly you get out there in the first few holes, disaster happens. We hate to think that happens, or that's going to happen, but we all know it's realistic. How do you recover from that? What do you mentally do to sort of flick the switch and say, okay, I've had a couple of bad holes to start this round off, and then where do you go from there? How do you sort of flick that switch to get back on track?
Well, again, you can only control what you're doing at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I would ask myself, why? Why did you have the bad holes? Were you doubtful standing over the shot? Were you trying to steer it? What was happening? And again, if you're honest, you'll find, you're doing some things that you shouldn't be doing. You're trying too hard. You're trying a shot that you don't have a 50% chance of pulling off. It's not in your toolbox, if you will. And then you can only focus on the task at hand. We cannot control what we shoot. And I think most people will tell you that they had their best round of golf when they weren't keeping their score.
Right.
Because, again, if you go from pursue to, okay, where's this shot, visualize it, feel what you're going to do, inspect your options, decide, commit to your decision, you're in the moment and you're engaged in your game. On the other hand, if you're like, oh, wow, be careful, this is your hardest hole, you can't hit an OB here, now you're protecting. And when you do that, your body can't physiologically swing correctly. You're not playing golf. You're steering it.
Right. You're using your body to try and control the outcome.
And if you're not aware of that, again, it would depend on your skill level. How good do you want to be? And it doesn't matter if you want to win the Class B championship at the country club and the low net division. If you shoot 135, it doesn't matter. The emotions are all the same, and the process is the same. That's what makes this game so great. You can pretend you're playing in the U.S. Open and shoot 125 for 18 holes. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's true. Cindy, you made a comment earlier on, and I wanted to sort of expand on that a little bit, and I want you to take both scenarios. In a situation where you're, let's say, leading the tournament by a stroke or even two, and you get, in those last few final holes, how does your mindset change? What do you go now? Do you go into more of a protective mode where you're trying to protect that lead, or you continue on with the game that you were playing and try to increase that lead, or where do you go from there? What's your train of thought at that point?
Well, I can tell you that a Legends Tour, the Hy-Vee Classic, I was one under par for the day, and as on the 13th hole, I went to the bathroom, and I was trying to read the scoreboards 3 holes away. And I thought I saw 3 under par, and not sure, but I thought, holy cow, look out, you're really doing well. And I was trying to get in the top 10. And then the little voice in my head said, Cindy, absolutely do not protect. You must continue to pursue. It matters nothing. Nothing matters with where you are right now. This tournament is not over. It is not over until the last puck goes in on the last hole, and the only thing you can control is what you're doing right now. Now, is that hard? Absolutely. But if you're not aware of that and you start to try to protect, I mean, we have all witnessed it on TV many times over. You cannot protect and win a tournament.
Yeah, you're right. We've seen that many times. I've seen that with a lot of different players out there where they've had what we would think would be a fairly comfortable lead, and then, in the last 6 or 7 holes just completely fall apart. It's not until that last putt sinks in on number 18, you haven't won the tournament, unless you are fortunate to be 12 strokes ahead, as Tiger was in the first Masters he appeared in. But you're right. There's a lot. Let's sort of flip that around a little bit, Cindy, and let's go the other side of the spectrum, and let's talk about in a situation where maybe you're a stroke or 2 behind with some holes to play. Does your mindset change differently from that point?
Well, I think it would depend on the situation you're in and what you want to do. Again, I wanted to finish in the top 10. Didn't think I had a chance to win, so I just wanted to keep plugging along. Now, if you're trying to keep your card and you have to win the tournament to be able to keep your card, you must really fire at the pin. You will take risks that you might not take otherwise. Is the risk worth the reward? It depends on the situation that you're in. So needless to say, you need to be aware. Somebody like Tiger, all he wants to do is win. Somebody that needs to keep their card, they need to keep their card. So it depends on the situation. But again, we all wish we could control what we shoot. Unfortunately, that's what makes this game so enticing, and we cannot. So it would depend on your own mindset and your personality. Somebody like Jason Duffner may not fire at as many pins as Tiger Woods.
Right.
He's going to play more conservatively in the middle of the green. Tiger is I'm all or nothing. So it depends on the personality and the behavior style of the person.
Well, and also somebody, at Tiger's caliber, especially when he's been at the height of his career, he has such a game that it gives him a tremendous amount of confidence. So when you have that confidence, it's like having an extra club, in your bag that you can count on all the time. And that's what's really, carried him through so many tournaments, is that he's had such a strong sense of confidence in his game that he knew when he stood over that ball, he could essentially make it do what he wanted or needed it to do in most cases. Now, obviously, some cases it didn't happen, but the majority of cases he was able to control the ball and do what it was, but that was with confidence. And as we've seen of late in more recent years, when that confidence has been somewhat shattered, you don't see the same results. But let me just ask, and I'm talking about you personally because obviously everybody's different, the situation is different. In your practice sessions, obviously I know you've indicated that you want to sort of visualize that you're playing a hole or that you're playing in a tournament, maybe the U.S. Open or something. But do you have a specific regiment that you adhere to, that you found works best for you?
In my practice?
Yes.
I always start with a sand wedge. So efficiency is important to me. So I would start with a sand wedge, and like say yesterday when I was in the Dome before I started teaching, I would start with my 58-degree lob wedge, and I would hit shots to different pins and holes in the Dome, locations at different distances. So while I'm loosening up, I'm also practicing, 10 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards, 40 yards, 50 yards on purpose. So I know what I need to do with each club, where I'm going to grip, how big a swing I'm going to take, excuse me, to hit the ball certain distances. So I'm loosening up and I'm practicing my short shots at the same time. And then I work my way up into longer clubs, and then I might hit a couple drivers. I might not hit a couple drivers, but I'm always trying to feel, what am I doing? I'm not thinking about the ball. I'm paying attention to what my body's doing.
Right, exactly. And that's a great way to practice in preparation for any event, whether you're an accomplished player and wanting to play on a tour, or you're just playing with your local your foursome on the weekend. You have to have a game plan. You have to practice with purpose when you go out, and not just sort of, as you said, grab a club and just start whacking away, because you're never going to be a better player. And obviously we're all in pursuit of being a better player, and it's a lifelong journey. And Cindy, this sort of leads into what we want to talk about next. You're going to be bringing a series to the women of golf that you're working on right now, and really the sort of underlining tone is we all have to sort of own our own game. So talk a little bit about what you want to do in the next few weeks coming up, and we'll go from there.
Well, again, teaching so many people, you get an opportunity to find out what's missing. Why are you here? Why do you play golf? Whether it's just for fun, or you like to be outside, or it's a family affair, or you love the competition, you love the personal challenge. Why? The first thing I ask anybody that shows up on the lesson tee is, why are you here? And what could I give you in the next 30 minutes that would make you so glad you came? And sometimes people aren't really sure. Oh, well, I want to be more consistent. Okay, well, the definition of consistent is doing the same thing over and over again, which would be also defined as boring, So if you want to be consistent and you don't know what you're doing, then now you're very aware that you don't know what you're doing, and you really don't have a chance to be consistent. So I would really like to ask the listeners to email us or to Facebook me, Cindy Miller Golf, or my Twitter is @CindyMillerGolf. My email is cindy@cindymillergolf.com, and womenofgolf@gmail.com to give us what would you like to know, and what bothers you about your game. What's the thing that you believe is missing? Because to me, again, it comes back to that problem solving. If you plan a shot and you inspect your options, you know what the wind's doing, you see the lie, you've acknowledged stupid. I call it acknowledged stupid. Where would stupid hit the ball? So I've learned, again, in all my years of trying to get better myself, and all the shrinks that I've gone to, is, your mind cannot hear a negative. So if you say, don't hit it in the bunker, you jerk, your brain hears, hit it in the bunker, you jerk. So you hit it in the bunker. And then you go, I just told myself not to do that, So instead of saying that in my little pre-show routine, I tell people, acknowledge stupid. So don't give it any weight to say, bunker there, I'm going here. So if the bunker's on the right side of the green, aim it at the left side.
Yep.
So once you make all those decisions, then, do you hit it consistently enough to pull the right club, because you know how far you fly the ball, not end the ball, fly the ball. And people might go, I never thought about how far I fly the ball. Well, there could be an issue there. So to truly own your game and know what you're doing, there might be little tiny baby steps that you weren't aware of that could totally change your game. And so we would like to hear from you. I would like to hear from the listeners as I plan this process with, the programming of what I'm going to do, the Own Your Game series. What is it that you really want to know? Maybe you didn't pick the right club. Maybe you weren't aimed. Maybe you didn't pick the right shot. Most people don't break 90. So if you played your game and tried to make a bogey on every hole, maybe you don't hit your driver. If you can't hit your driver straight, don't hit your driver. Hit a 3 hybrid off the tee. So, again, define Own Your Game. Well, I can't get it in the air. I slice my driver. Well, why? We're going to answer the question why.
Yeah, that's a great point. Just remember, for those of you listening out there, you can email the show at womenofgolf@gmail.com, or you can visit Cindy Miller on Facebook. And very quickly again, your Twitter and email that you want to use as well, Cindy.
Twitter is @CindyMillerGolf, and my email is cindy@cindymillergolf.com.
Perfect. And you can also find me on Twitter at @TedandBuckCEO. You can certainly send your tweets there as well if you want. We certainly love to hear from you as Cindy prepares for the series coming up, Owning Your Game. I see that we have our guest ready to go here, so we're just going to do a brief introduction here, and then we're going to bring Carol out on the show as well, Cindy. So let's go to it here. Our guest this morning, of course, is a true legend of the game. Carol started playing the golf at age of 9 and credits both her father and Jim Scott and Manuel de la Torre as some of the individuals most influencing her career. She served as the president of the LPGA from 1974 to 1975 and was a member of the executive board and board of directors. She was a key figure in the formation of the modern LPGA and was named an honorary member of the LPGA Teaching and Club Professional membership in 1993 for her golf education commitment. She is a trustee of the Women's Sports Foundation since 1979 and served as president from 1985 to 1990, and currently a board of stewards member. Teaches golf excellence to all skill levels at Woodlands Country Club in the Woodlands, Texas area, and coaches aspiring players. She's an author of The 19th Hole, Favorite Golf Stories, and also was a former television analyst with ABC, ESPN, and NBC, and covered both men's and ladies. And Cindy, I think we should bring Carol on.
Well,
can you hear me?
Go ahead, Cindy.
We can.
Yes, we
can hear you. Carol, thank you so much for being here. We're so thrilled to have you. Welcome to the Women of Golf.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be with you, Cindy and Ted.
We are so glad to have you.
Good. I want
Cindy,
to
I know
hear
that
how the series goes that you're planning.
Yeah, definitely. Carol, we've got. We looked over your bio, and again, the first LPGA tournament I ever went to was the River Oaks Championship at Grand Island, New York, the Mark Equity Classic, and I remember seeing you there and watching you hit balls when I was just a young little punk, and I remember going, holy cow, I wish I could be that good. And you know what reminds me? You remind me of such a server in the golf industry. I'm so thrilled and honored to be a friend of yours because all you do is give. And I just want to thank you for that.
Oh, my. Well, thank you. You made my day. Thank you. You have to understand that I had incredible mentors, especially Patty Berg. And I had a sponsor who told me she didn't want the money back when I went to start repaying her in 1964 when I started making a little money. And she said she didn't want the money back, but she wanted me to pass it on. And so it became like a way of life for me. And golf has given me so much. If you only knew how much I think golf has given me, there's no way I can't ever repay what golf has done for my life.
Well, we are thrilled that you're such an icon, and we really appreciate it. I do have to ask you a question, though. your first major championship, your 38 victories, in 1964, you won the Women's Western Open. It was a major championship at the time. And you're the first LPGA, the only person in LPGA history to make the Western Open your first career win. Did that set the tone for your whole career?
Well, I sure did like it after I realized I won. In those days, but it was uncomfortable winning. I scraped it up the last hole. I was so nervous because I'd eagled about the 70th hole, and then I birdied the 71st hole. And so all of a sudden, but you see that we had no leaderboards except about every 5 holes. So you didn't really know where you stood. And so I'd come off the green after making bogey on this dippy little short par 5 as the last hole, and I thought I'd blown it, and I'm standing there, and I said, well, who won? And they said, you did.
Wow.
So that's how I knew I won. And then it was fun. I did bottles of champagne for the press, as Tony Lima was doing on the men's tour. But my paycheck was only, I think, $1,400 for winning, and I spent $150 of it on the champagne.
10% time.
I liked winning majors, but unfortunately, in about 67, the Western Open stopped being the Western Open. The title holders blew up, and so we only had 2 majors to play in until the installation of a third major, the Kraft Nabisco and Dinah Shore, in the early 80s, and so I spent most of my career only playing for 2 majors a year. So my third tournament win was the U.S. Women's Open, which was also fun.
Yeah, that had to be awesome. Let me ask you a question. As Ted was talking, we were discussing about pursuing and protecting. Did you have trouble handling your control tower and your thoughts as you were coming down the stretch?
Oh, absolutely. I'm pretty active-minded and high-strung, and I can think stupid with the best of them, like you were just describing. And, I'm an excellent stupid thinker. But see, I attribute it to emotional management. I had to learn. I see there are 3 systems. One, the physical skills and the execution of those, but the mind, the mental plan, where you strategically and tactically you want to put your ball and how you want to put it there. But then the third thing is the biggest undoer, in my opinion, is the emotional management that I had to learn dramatically how to handle. And I am emotional. I can't help it, and it's just how I am. So that was my biggest challenge. Besides dealing with a 6'3" body and long levers that they didn't make clubs for in the 60s and before that. So it was, I was managing a lot, Cindy, in my little head, and but it became simple, actually. Once I figured it out, it became very simple and very clear, and it was very peaceful. And I was extremely confident, and I had a lot of fun doing it once I got all my systems managed correctly. Yeah.
Yeah. So would you say really that you personally had to learn to own your own game and be the best you that you could be?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And my teacher, Manuel Delatorre, and I worked on. We invented a system. I know that this fellow Steve Yellen is doing a lot of good work with a thing called of flow motion factor, I think it's called. And he's at the Ledbetter Academy. I don't know if you've read his stuff, but I haven't. It's wonderful. And I think it's a sliver of information existing between the sports psychologist and the golf teacher technician. And I think there's plenty of room for the contribution of this guy. So you might want to take a look at some of the stuff he's doing.
I will.
Funny, Carol, funny that you mentioned that. By pure coincidence, just last night, I was actually communicating with Stephen Yellen, and he's actually going to be a guest of mine on my Golf Talk Live program Thursday evening, July 3rd. So you want to make sure that you tune in for that. I'll send you the information through email where you can go to tune into that. But he's actually going to be coming on my program. He was supposed to be on last week, and unfortunately he had another commitment and wasn't able to join me. Or actually, I'm sorry, he was supposed to be on this Thursday, and isn't going to be able to make it. So we've rescheduled for July 3rd. So I'm well aware of Mr. Yellen and his accomplishments. So you want to make sure that you tune in for that program, and we'd certainly love to have you listen in. Cindy, if you have any more questions for Carol, I think it would be a good one to, with the follow-up on her win at the Western Open.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Oh, you're wait.
Go ahead.
She already talked about the U.S. Open, so I wasn't going to even mention that.
Okay.
But again, a major victory. I just think I'm so thrilled and honored that the fact that she says she's got to learn to own her own game and be comfortable and be able to manage her emotions, which we all need to do.
Yeah, that's so true. And Carol, one of the things that I think that we all sort of struggle with, whether we're playing in a tour event or whether we're playing with our partners on the weekend, is being able to handle pressure. How were you able to handle pressure earlier on in your career?
I didn't. That's how I handled it. I didn't handle it, and it was embarrassing. It was mind-bogglingly painful, cruel, and I just wanted to crawl in a hole and die. I can tell you this: the first tournament I led, I was out at the Mickey Wright tournament in San Diego, and I actually played with Mickey Wright in the final round. And I shot 84. I was leading the tournament. I shot 84. I was so embarrassed and mortified. And I didn't know what to do. I mean, there's no way. See, in golf, there's no timeout and there's no substitution. So I couldn't get my alter ego in there, and I didn't know what to do. So basically what you do is you experience the absolute hideous horribleness of it, and then you find out what you're made of. You find out, well, am I going to just keep doing this? Well, that takes away your incentive to practice and to work hard and try to be better. So, or are you going to put yourself in that position again? So let's see what happens and learn from it. So that's basically what I did. I kept putting myself in that position with my practice routines and my goals and my desires and my processes. But I kept failing. Here's another kind of vivid. I was leading a tournament in St. Petersburg, and I have long legs. I'm tall, and I walk so fast that I'd be way ahead of my fellow competitors in the group, and because I was stoked on adrenaline, and so I had to start walking zigzag down off the tee and down the fairway to our balls, just so I could manage my energy. Of course, it wore myself out at the end, but the first 3 greens of that tournament that I was leading, I knocked it over the green, my second shot. Great shots, but the ball went further than I've ever hit it. Now that, once again, that's adrenaline. And you have to know that this is what happens to you. But until I would say that I took more than baby steps. I went kindergarten or nursery school, actually, up to a graduate degree. But believe me, no one sat in their room and cried more than I did, and felt the horrible pain of the cruelness of golf. And the fact that I couldn't deal with it. So I saw that as an incredible part of the challenge of golf. So you're not just trying to play a shot. You're trying to overcome yourself, for heaven's sakes. And so, are you laughing, Cindy?
I'm laughing because we all know the horribleness of the pain.
Yeah. And see, if we told people, anybody listening, they saying, well, wait, am I going to be in pain playing golf? You might. It's part of what comes with it. It depends on how much you care, basically. So, but it is joyful, I will say that, and it sure is worth it to live in the culture of golf. Well, anyhow, I just a series of putting myself in position, and finally I broke through and managed myself, and I couldn't believe it. But believe me, at the very end, I wanted to blow it. That's stupid.
Well, and I think too,
back.
I think that a lot of people, looking at the different tournaments, Nat, from a television standpoint, I think a lot of people are under misconception that they think that, what these tour players are going through, whether it's on the men's tour or the ladies' tours, that it's all, smiles and everything's great. But there's a lot that goes in behind, and as you said, a lot of emotion that happens with a lot of these players, some of it good and some of it bad. As part of one of the things that Cindy talks about is sort of handling the control tower in owning your game. There's a lot of times when that is a difficult task. When you got yourself in a situation, Carol, where you felt that you didn't have complete control, was there something that you did that sort of helped flick the switch, if you will, to get yourself back in the game?
Well, I try to breathe. That's the first thing that usually gets too shallow, is breathing, because the adrenaline is flooding you, and all your heart rate's up, and your breathing is shallow, and I got weak in the knees and sweaty palms and sick to my stomach. So how am I doing? The physiological changes that you experience under pressure, there's no preparation for that. You have to live it, you have to experience it, and then figure yourself out all the way through. So I did imagery, I did visualization of a calm lake. I used to go visit friends in between shots. I'd go visit friends around the country in my head and just experience laughter and joy and the fun that I had with them. So there's this whole interior world of possibility, actually. And once you experience the worst of it, now then you can build yourself a better world on your interior and start the management process. Breathing, slowing heart rate, slowing your walking, or riding the cart. See, when people try to play golf under pressure riding a cart, I don't know how they do it, because the walking itself is a very rhythmic kind of activity, and it helps put you in an alpha state, and alpha state is where you want to be performing from. So I would do everything in my power to get to alpha once I learned about it. And it's a very calm, peaceful set of brainwaves. So you can operate from there. You can make decisions. It's very hard to make decisions if you're flooded out. I mean, and you hate yourself while you're making decisions. So that's not very pleasant. None of that is pleasant. Am I being descriptive enough, Cindy?
You're being amazing, and thank you for sharing, because I don't think people realize that we all, excuse me, anyone that tries to pursue this, you will go through the pain. And as I teach all the juniors that, play and compete, there is crying in golf. If you choose to pursue this, you're going to have to look at the person in the mirror, and you're going to have to figure out, how do I best solve this issue, and learn to manage myself emotionally, mentally, and physically. So you're absolutely right on point. And here's the thing. The reason that we know so much about this is because we chose to pursue it and learn about ourselves.
Well, I view the fact that we own our bodies, we own our minds, we own our control tower, as you call it. We own it, but how are we dealing with it? And it's a lifetime thing. I view all the lessons I learned from golf as lifetime lessons, not just temporary while I'm sitting there in St. Petersburg, Florida, trying to figure out how to keep my ball on the green, or stand over a putt with fine, precise motor skills. I want to just share one last event of craziness with you. At the U.S. Women's Open 1974, I had a lead in the tournament, and I was playing in the last group. I hit my 3-iron into the first hole green, 10 feet away. So I have a putt for birdie to go more ahead, and I was excited. And I get over the putt, and I can't move my arms. I was like paralyzed. I talked to a psychiatrist friend a little bit later on. He said what I experienced was what's called mild hysteria. And that's where everything just kind of shuts down. And I could not. I'm not kidding you. I'm standing there, and I'm freaking out. I cannot move the putter. Nothing would work. And so I had to just shoulder it. I just moved my body back and forth and nudged the thing down there and then tapped it in. So I get to the second green, and now I'm freaking out going down the second hole. I was a swimmer in high school and before that, and so I started, waving your arms around trying to shake out the tension. And my ball striking was fine. As a matter of fact, on the second hole, I knocked it up there about 4 feet short of the hole for another birdie on the par 5. And so I get over this one, and I'm thinking, I did all my shaking, trying to get rid of the tension in my arms and hands before I stepped over it. And so now I'm over it. Now all of a sudden, I can't move my arms again. So I had a second experience. And I'm not kidding you. What do you do? What do you do? Like I said, no timeout, no substitutions. Now, I've never told this story before, okay? But by the time of the third green, I was so I don't know, where I went over the edge or something. But on the third green, now I started hitting it terrible. because you're just gone. And so I hit my drive, hit the ball short of the green that I pitched on, and I made a 30-foot putt for par.
Wow.
Okay? All of a sudden, it went away. Okay? So do I know why? Have I ever experienced it again? No. Do I know of anyone else that's ever experienced it? No, probably some have. It just was another hideous experience. I put way too much pressure on trying to win that tournament because behind the scenes, the LPGA was going through some difficult times with the USGA. I don't know if you're aware of that, Cindy, or if you were playing in that Open. But
I
the
did
USGA,
not play in that Open.
You didn't? No. Well, you see, there were a number of issues which I'd really rather not go into because it's somewhat embarrassing to the USGA. And they are sponsoring this huge Open for us at Pinehurst in a few weeks. And there's a reunion of all the past champions. And, they're paying my way in there, so I'm not going to do anything to talk about the past. They've caught up. Let me put it that way. So I did not win that Open.
But we're very grateful that you had the guts to share that with us, because not everybody wants to show people or tell people what their personal emotions or physiological challenges might be when they're pursuing something. And it's absolutely true. I remember my husband Alan at his first Masters said, the guy said, Alan Miller, Pensacola, Florida, play away, please. And he went to tee the ball up, and he could not move his hand away from the ball after he put it in the ground. He was like, what is this? So apparently it was the same exact thing. He could not move his hand. Finally, he said he just jerked his hand away. He doesn't even remember hitting the shot. The next thing he remembers is being in the first fairway somewhere.
Oh, my. Oh, my. Yes.
Yeah. So,
well, and this really kind of goes to what I was saying there a few moments ago. Is I don't think, you know, as the fans and the audience really appreciates what a tour player goes through. You know, when they're out there, we just see sort of the accolades that come after winning the tournament and after seeing some great shots. But a lot of people don't really understand the emotions, don't realize that the pressures that a tour player feels, and also, you know, Carol, as you've just shared with us, sometimes what physically can happen as a result of those emotions and those you know, thoughts, and how you know, what you do to sort of power through them, and sometimes there's nothing you can do. Sometimes it's just a matter of, you know, I guess for lack of better words, the will of God, that something happens that you're able to come out of it by the time you got to the third hole. But other than that, there's really not much you can do except for try and shake it out and move on. And that's something that you know, Cindy wants to talk about, you know, in her new series coming up here on the Women of Golf, you know, Owning Your Game. I think that that's going to be a very effective series, and it's going to help a lot of golfers out there that struggle with some of these same, you know, feelings and emotions in their own lives. And you're right, Carol, you raised a valid point that, you know, golf is really a life journey, and it's something that you continue on through, you know, your years on Earth here. Let me ask you, Carol, if I may, just to talk about, in 1977, of course, you were inducted to the LPGA Tour Hall of Fame. How did it make you feel to be recognized by your peers? What thoughts went through your head when you were inducted?
Oh, my. Gratitude to all the people that helped me get there. Like, you know, and so I enumerated those people. And some people didn't even know how they helped me. For example, knowing Ben Hogan and spending a little time with him. He was such an idol of mine, or a hero, or you know, someone I admired so much, and to get to spend a little time with him and observe him and realize his kindness and see his eyes and how very special they were. Well, so I gave Ben Hogan credit in my speech, but not because he taught me or anything, but because of his being a role model for
right.
me and for a lot of us, you know, of work and hard work and never say die, you know, and keep coming back up. So, and Patty Berg especially, and she was present at when I accepted my. But I will tell you something funny. I just saw a picture the other day. I'm doing an album of photographs right now, and I saw a picture of me at the podium at my acceptance speech, and the gentlemen sitting behind me were laughing. And all I can think of, why would they be laughing, is that when I got up there, I was wearing a particular outfit that day, and a black skirt, black stockings, black shoes, and a nice blouse. And I said, man, this is so wonderful to be here and do this and get into the Hall of Fame, but I have a run in my stocking. And these guys sitting behind me were going to see it, you know, so I had to acknowledge I had a run. These were the days we wore stockings, Cindy. So that's what they were laughing about. Here's this Hall of Fame inductee, and she's got a run in her stocking, and that's all she can talk about? Are you kidding me?
Well, certainly a very humble way of accepting that honor, of course. You mentioned also, Carol, as well, some of the people that helped mentor you in the game of golf.
Yeah.
But were there specific other players that you really admired, and maybe you could just share some thoughts with that?
Absolutely. Mickey Wright and Betsy Rawls were my two hardest mentors. They were really tough on me, okay? I talked to them before I turned pro, before I made the decision to turn pro. So they became incredible mentors to me throughout the way. But if I hadn't had the beginning that they gave me, I mean, they grilled me. You have to understand, they grilled me about, was I willing to take responsibility for my golf ball, wherever I hit it, whatever I did to it. So the huge thing to them was being willing to take responsibility for yourself as you play the game, instead of finding ways to blame it on being victimized by a bad bounce, somebody else, somebody coughed in the audience, whatever we do, finding ways to blame and take the responsibility off ourselves. So I was imbued with that as a huge mission, basically, from the beginning. So I admired them for their intellects, their friendship, and of course, their skills, because they're two of the all-time greatest, Mickey and Betsy. Also, Sandra Haney was a particularly good friend of mine in those days. We used to caravan together. So I admired her game. Holy cow. I mean, she's just a little kid, and she can hit it so far. There were others along the way. Marilyn Smith I couldn't really understand her because she was so pleasant all the time. And
she still is.
That's a wonderful. Yeah, she still is, right. Marilyn, do you ever have a bad day? Anyhow, so she was a great role model, and Patty Bird, of course, was just the finest. I'll never forget. She taught us ethics in the clinic and exhibition training that we did. Ethics. Imagine that. What's the primary ethic thing that she taught me was, one, when you're talking about competitors' products, like we worked for Wilson and McGregor had something or other, what you didn't ever do was criticize the competition. Never criticize the competition. You always said, she taught us, theirs is good, ours is better. And so that became also kind of an attitude for me. She's good, but right now this other one is better. So you never down talk anything or anybody. That's not. So that becomes a way of looking at the world. And so Patty was a huge influence on my life.
Very good.
Well.
Yeah, just one.
You know what?
One
you
final.
guys are such gems, just such gems. Thank you so much for being you.
Oh, thank you for having me. That's fun.
Well, we certainly appreciate it, and just a final thought, Carol, if you wouldn't mind sharing with the audience, if you were standing at a podium again in front of a group of young, aspiring ladies wanting to come out and earn their stripes, if you will, on the LPGA Tour, what advice, drawing from your own career, would you give them?
These days, these young players have an opportunity that we didn't have, which was to make incredible impact on all the fans that are out there watching. Mm-hmm. Including the other little girls. We didn't have that luxury often. So what I tell I'm in the pod, the distance partners thing for the rookies. So I have 3 rookies in my pod, and I tell them every single week when I text them or talk to them, smile first, smile, 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 smile. Why? 1, it relieves you. And 2, it makes friends with all those people that are watching you. And I think if they can draw energy from the support of the fans, that helps them. It helps them realize that they're on display. This is a performance. You're not just out there playing golf. You're performing golf. And you're entertaining golf to all those people. So whether it be television or just in person or a clinic or something, you need to remember that your presentation needs to be as pleasant and appealing as possible. What you wear, that your shoes are shined, your shirt is ironed, your hair is nice, and you smile. And that really makes life a lot easier to live, by the way. Lots of smiling.
Yeah. Very well
Carol,
said.
thank you. Thank you so much for being on our show this week. We are absolutely thrilled and honored that you were willing to take the time to be with us.
Sure, it's my honor, and thank you, and good luck with all your goals and your missions to help all these golfers out here.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it, Carol. Thank you for spending this morning with Cindy and I. And you have a great day. And I'll send you that information about Steve Yellen in a little bit later on today, so you can tune in. All right. Thank you,
Great.
Carol Mann, for joining us on Women of Golf. All right. Have a great day. Okay, Cindy, just before we close off here, we just got a minute or two left. I think we should just remind everybody a little bit, if you want to remind them of the series that you're going to be starting here in the next few weeks, how they can participate in providing some questions, or where they can get in touch with you.
Well, we are going to start the Own Your Game series. We would like to know, what is it that you would like to know on how you can personally own your game. What changes do you think you need to make, and how can we help you do that? And my Twitter is @CindyMillerGolf, or you can email me at cindy@cindymillergolf.com, or Facebook, Cindy Miller Golf.
Right, and you can also, if you want, you can email into the program at womenofgolf@gmail.com, or you can ask your questions to me as well on my Twitter handle is Ted and Buck CEO, and I'm also, of course, on Facebook, or you can just call into the program if you want and pose your question live on the air. But Cindy and I want to thank you for joining us again this week here on the Women of Golf. We want to thank all the listeners around the world for tuning in to this weekly broadcast, and we look forward to having you join us here each Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time here on the Women of Golf at blogtalkradio.com. Cindy and I will see you right here next week on the Women of Golf. Have a great week, everybody. Take care, Cindy. You have a great day, and I will see you back here next Tuesday.
Thanks very much. Same thing.
All right.